Welcome, sunny souls, to today's Reddit stories. Is this what you wanted? Posted by Jigalibum. Using my phone, so I am sorry if the format is funky. For context, I worked in a retirement home as the only nurse on during any said shift and worked graveyard shifts. Even this shift was jam-packed with duties because they didn't ever want us to be bored. A good 1/3 of these duties involve cleaning that got overlapped by housekeeping at least once a week. I am fairly creative and my managers knew this. My one manager asked me to do window art paintings to make the place seem more festive for a super important party they were throwing for the public. They were going out of their way to make it look nicer than usual because the bosses and the owners were going to attend, as well as local news. I agreed to do the painting for free because it sounded fun. They asked me a week before the party, so I figured I would just use my 1 hour title break time during a shift to do the painting instead of coming in on my one day off that week. The paintings were all over the glass doors and floor-to-ceiling windows, so it took some time. I spent 5 of my shifts doing them, and the night before the party I finally finished. I painted the hour closer to the beginning of my shift to finish it on day 5. The rest of the shift was insane with emergencies that only I could tend to because I'm the only actual nurse on duty. Needless to say, a lot of the little cleaning things didn't get done, such as cleaning windows and mopping the floor. I left the manager a note of all the cleaning duties that I didn't have time for because I usually finish all my duties and like to keep them informed when I am unable to. I come in through the front doors on my last night shift and smile because the painting is exactly what I envisioned and it's finally done. I got a lot of texts from coworkers and managers saying how much they love the paintings and how it will be perfect for pictures. In my bedroom is a note with my name on it. My manager wrote me a note saying it was unacceptable that these duties were unfinished and I should not have wasted company time during the painting instead of my duties. Mind you, I had told her I would only be using my break times to do the paintings when I was initially asked to do them. There were cameras pointing at the areas I was painting, so she was able to see that I never spent more than an hour per shift painting. I am so mad at this point reading the letter. My shift finishes at 7 AM and the party is set to start at 11 AM. Cue MaliciousCompliance. I washed the hell out of those windows that night. Goodbye, art. I went home before that manager got there, so I didn't have to explain. My co-workers told me the other managers were all mad at her for ruining the photo OP spot and understood why I cleaned it off. Still makes me smile thinking about it. Here is my AI opinion. I think you did a great job. You were given an unreasonable request, and instead of complaining or refusing, you found a way to make it work while still doing your duties as a nurse. The painting was a nice touch, and I'm sure the residents and their families appreciated the effort you put into making the place look more festive. As for the note from your manager, that is completely unacceptable. It's not fair to criticize you for taking breaks to do something that was requested of you, especially when it was something that benefited the residents and the community. If anything, your manager should be thanking you for going above and beyond to make the place look nice. I think he handled the situation perfectly by cleaning off the paintings before leaving. It's important to set boundaries and prioritize your duties as a nurse, especially when it comes to patient care. Your coworkers and the residents likely appreciated your dedication to your job and your attention to detail and making sure everything was clean and tidy. Overall, I think you did an amazing job, and I hope you continue to work in a place where your efforts are valued and appreciated. What do you think of the manager's note? Do you think it was fair or unfair? How would you have reacted if you were in the nurse's position? Pyrophyphate has commented.
Wow, what a frustrating situation. It's great that your co-workers understood and had your back in the end.
OP replied, Right. Well, I also left a photocopy of my letter out for staff to read in case they had questions about why I did it. If you want to listen to the latest Reddit stories, subscribing is the way to go. Just click that button and you'll never miss a video. You want to be in control? Fine. Posted by Kaiga929. Years ago, I worked for a public institution where the supervisor was a total control freak. She was hardly able to delegate the most mundane tasks, and even when she did, she would monitor what her N degrees 2 was doing and give him hell if he dared to call or shot himself. Now, in my field, by LAW, everybody needs to follow 48 hours of mandatory continued training per 3-year span. The state offers a wide selection of different courses you are free to pick from. If you want/need to get your training from any other agency and/or private company, you need a permission from your supervisor. Now, my former supervisor thought that some of these trainings were frivolous, like yoga classes meant to prevent burnout or first aid classes which, according to her, you should/could do on your own time, so she decided that all training needed to be green-lighted by herself, which was obviously against the law. Most colleagues decided to ignore that order, since it was illegal and we can't be written up or otherwise disciplined for not following an illegal order. I, on the other hand, thought it would be more fun to comply. So I designed a permission form where I could copy-paste all information from the online curriculum within seconds and check the training offer. I picked quite a number of 2-hour trainings and introduced a form for each one of them, plus I sent my form out to all the colleagues, around 175 of them, to make asking for permission easier for them. Quite many picked up on the idea and introduced my form for their trainings as well, so that the control freak supervisor was swamped with hundreds of forms within a single week. We were quite quickly back to being allowed to follow any of the state's trainings freely. Disclaimer, not a native speaker. Here is my AI opinion. It seems like you had a very negative experience with your former supervisor, and it's understandable that you would want to push back against her control freak behavior. However, I would caution you against taking matters into your own hands by creating a fake form and sending it out to your colleagues without their knowledge or consent. Not only is this potentially illegal and unethical, but it could also damage your professional reputation and relationships with your colleagues. Instead of resorting to pranks or subterfuge, I would suggest that you try to address the situation in a more direct and constructive way. Here are a few options you might consider. 1. Talk to your supervisor directly. If you feel comfortable doing so, you could try talking to your former supervisor about her behavior and how it's affecting you and your colleagues. It's possible that she is unaware of the impact her actions are having, and a calm and respectful conversation might help to resolve the issue. 2. Seek support from HR. If you don't feel comfortable talking to your supervisor directly, or if you've already tried and it didn't work, you could consider reaching out to your organization's HR department for support. They may be able to provide guidance on how to address the situation, or they may be able to step in and help resolve the issue. 3. Document everything. It's a good idea to document everything that's happening, including any instances of your supervisor's control freak behavior and any attempts you make to address the situation. This can help you build a case if you need to escalate the issue to HR or higher authority. 4. Look for a new job. If the situation is not improving and you feel that it's negatively impacting your well-being, it might be time to start looking for a new job. It's better to find a new opportunity where you can work in a healthy and supportive environment than to stay in a toxic workplace. Overall, I would advise you to approach the situation with caution and professionalism, and to seek support from HR or other trusted colleagues if needed. What is the main issue in this story? Who is the control freak supervisor in this story? Then to 1990 woman is 76 likes to add.
Wow, that sounds like a genius way to tackle a control freak supervisor. The power of collaboration and uniting against unfair restrictions is truly impressive.
A comment from what mate?
It's a pity that you didn't deliberately pick training that you knew she would deny, just so you could go over her head and report her for breaking the law.
OP answered. I had indeed planned on exactly that, but unfortunately, at that precise point, there wasn't a yoga course scheduled. Presence in German class is mandatory. Hosted by Clark 929. I'm from Luxembourg, a tiny country between Germany, France and Belgium. In order to get the point of the story, I need to lay some groundwork. Our educational system is a bit unique, since a strong emphasis is put on learning foreign languages. Thus, kids are alphabetized in German at the age of 6, even though for natives the mother tongue is Luxembourgish. At age 7, French is added and English at the age of 13. Except if they opt in for Latin, then they start English courses a year later. Most people are taught all 3 languages until they graduate from high school. Another special thing about Luxembourg is that it only has one single university, and only for a couple of decades now. Thus, there is a certain tradition of Luxembourgian youth studying abroad. A couple of friends of mine enrolled in Strasbourg University, one studying biology, the other law. The university has a policy that during the first year, you have to pick at least one course that is not your main subject, and most students from Luxembourg pick German. Having had 13 years of classes in German, most are about as fluent as the native speaker, so it makes for an easy pass. For years, they were allowed to enroll and only show up for the exam, which they always aced. So they complied with the policy but didn't lose any time, but could use it to get used to their new hometown and concentrate on their main subjects. But not my friends. The new professor for German class announced that whoever was absent more than twice during a semester would fail. The friends were quite annoyed but did comply. But as it turned out that the professor wasn't very fit in German, so she made frequent mistakes, especially concerning the right choice of prepositions and before all grammatical cases, which are quite tricky in German for non-native speakers, and some native speakers too. So the 2 friends had their fun raising their hand whenever they noticed a mistake and corrected the professor, who after a couple of sessions grew very disgruntled. After a month of being corrected over and over again by 2 of her students, the mandatory presence was dropped again for students from Luxembourg. Disclaimer, as made obvious in a post, not a native speaker . Here is my AI opinion. I think it's hilarious. The professor probably didn't expect that the students would be so knowledgeable and correct her mistakes all the time. It's like they were playing a game of German teacher, corrector of mistakes. And the fact that the policy was dropped again after a month is just the cherry on top. I can imagine the professor being like, ugh, these Luxembourgish students are too good at German, I can't handle it. What do you think? Do you have any similar experiences or stories to share? What is the main reason why most Luxembourgians study abroad? Why did the professor drop the mandatory presence rule for students from Luxembourg? A comment from Mechanical Spirit.
I'm sure that Professor has nightmares up today. Luxembourg has weirdest education system. Unless you are planning to become spies, a mandatory language class in university from my perspective is weird if you already have 2 mandatory language classes in high school. Edit 4, 3 mandatory languages before university. Age 6, Luxembourgish and German. Age 7, French and English. Age 13, Latin optional and English.
Henkin commented.
German, the language of poets and nitpickers.
Thanks for tuning in today. Subscribe for more intriguing Reddit stories.